What's up, guys? This is Ariel from Bee Pollinating Magic, wanting to spread love, light, peace, and all, and be pollinating, be empowering, and be positive, but most of all, be shifting into our highest timeline. Why am I so excited? Could it be the coffee? Could it be that I'm wearing my unicorn pants? It's both of those, but most of all, it's because of the newest addition to the homestead. And by the way, welcome to the Hardy Homestead. But many of you may have heard it, many of you may have not, so that's why I just want to talk about it because it's so freaking awesome. Electroculture. Electroculture is a method for applying atmospheric electricity to the fertilization of plant life. And according to the book Electroculture by Justin Christoflo, he was a well-known French scientist and inventor in the early 1900s. He was a member of the Society of Scientists and Inventors, Knight of Merit of Agriculture, and had many other titles, but he devoted years of research to electroculture and patented nearly 40 of his numerous inventions, including a moto-solar thermomagnetic network and a bio-electromagnetic focus electroculture device, which was aimed at capturing telluric currents and electromagnetic waves for use on plants. So his book documented pictures and examples of crops that were grown using his apparatus compared to traditional growing techniques. Inventors and scientists have researched this field dating as far back as 1749, when Abe Nolet was one of the first scientists to note the effects of electricity on plant life. In 1783, Abe Berthelon, made known for his work in the field, and invented an electroveggemeter. And then a Russian scientist, M. Shminov, later perfected the invention, finding that the composition of the soil was, quote, modified by the action of the currents. He recorded, quote, an overproduction of 62% for oats, 56% for wheat, and 34% for linseed. Brother Paulin, the director of the Agricultural Institute of Beauvais, invented the geomagnifier, which he reported gave wonderful results, especially with grapes, which were richer in sugar and alcohol and matured sooner and more regularly. George Van Tassel was an inventor and designer of the Integratron, which is a dome out in Landers, California, and built partially upon the work of George Lakowski and Nikola Tesla for scientific research into time, anti-gravity, and the extended human life. He was also an author, lecturer, radio and TV personality, and founder of a science philosophy organization dedicated to his works to electromagnetic research. In his book, When Stars Look Down, he describes tests that were conducted resulting in up to 30% more seed germination in a 24-hour period. Growth to time of harvest increased by several weeks, and it allowed some areas to grow a second crop sooner. Avoiding early freezes, and gaining up to 6 weeks on both plantings. Leaf and above ground vegetables were twice the size compared to uncharged soil. Root vegetables not only bigger but more flavorful. And his design, like the other inventors, can be easily assembled. You want to know more about Van Tassel? Let me know in the comments and I'll do a whole separate video on him because it's awesome. Awesome guy. So throughout all experimentation, besides an obvious increase in crop production, was another interesting and perhaps more important fact. The crops where devices were installed were free from harmful parasites, epidemic diseases, while still maintaining helpful insects. So if this has been researched so long ago, then why isn't commonly used well-known practice? Well, in the turn of the 20th century, many companies emerged in the agriculture industry, ranging from fertilizers to pesticides to herbicides and more. So one of the most well-known companies, who's still in operation today, Monsanto. So in 1901, Monsanto Chemical Works was founded, originally to produce the artificial sweetener saccharin, caffeine, and vanillin, and by 1919 was producing aspirin and its raw ingredients, salicylic acid, as well as polychlorinated biphenyls, which we now know as PCBs, which are highly carcinogenic chemical compounds. They assisted in the development of the first nuclear weapon, and in 1944, along with 15 other companies, they produced DDT, an insecticide which was later banned in the U.S. because which was like 1972, its harmful impacts on the environment. In the 60s and 70s, they were a producer for Agent Orange in Vietnam. And although they are involved in too much to cover right now in this video, they are mostly well known in the agricultural industry as being among one of the first companies to genetically modify plant cells and do field tests on genetically modified seeds. So is it possible that Monsanto and other companies have thwarted the efforts of scientists and researchers promoting electroculture, dating as far back as the Industrial Revolution? Perhaps there's a larger agenda, followed through with the use of advertisements to the general public, promoting the use of chemicals instead of using natural processes of the earth. People all over the world are going back to the principles of electroculture, specifically with the use of copper wires placed throughout the garden and copper structures over plants to increase their health and longevity. In fact, the knowledge of using copper tools to work with has also been well hidden by corporations who don't want people to have the knowledge to grow their own food. So could it be possible that just by placing metal, specifically copper, in your garden and grounding it, it's able to pull negative ions and atmospheric energy from the ether? They say at least 60 feet up ideally, but it doesn't have to be that tall. Don't attach it directly to a tree. It has to be freestanding. And perhaps we can help create those telluric currents to be able to help grow our own food, decreased pests, decreased weeds, and not have to use fertilizer. Let's energize the soil. Let's energize the plants. Let's energize ourselves. Let's energize the world!